Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tegar. Welcome to our 307th Leia Lying on Lothal episode of Mandovision. I'm your host, Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Be sure you're following us on the socials at Mando_Vision, Twitter /X and Instagram. Email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com, and make sure you're liking, subscribing, and following, and sharing the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, welcome back, Bucketheads. We're here for another exciting episode of our Star Wars Rebels rewatch, and we're here for a big one. This one bringing in a classic character from the original trilogy, much beloved, and why wouldn't she be? We are, of course, talking about Princess Leia. The title of this episode gives it all away, and I think that's A-okay. There's no problem with that. There's no secrets here in Star Wars. You know, there's no twist endings. There's no surprise cameos. Well, sometimes, but not often. But a very exciting episode, very well done episode, in my opinion. Very much enjoyed seeing a very young Princess Leia kind of in the early stages of helping foster the rebellion, build these rebel cells, and show the aid that Alderaan is giving to the people who are standing up to the tyranny of the Empire. And I like what I really like in this episode. One of my favorite aspects of it is the lengths with which she goes through to protect Alderaan's involvement in supporting the activities of these insurgents. And it's I don't know, it lends some authenticity to everything that's going on here. You know, you
Get out of here. We'll hold them off. You're going to have to relocate the covert. This is the way. This is the way.
You know, you can't have a planetary star system like Alderaan just out in the open supporting open rebellion against the government of the galaxy. So they have to be sneaky, they have to be crafty, and we get to see that from Leia's perspective. And we'll talk about that. We'll lay it out there and kind of get into all of that good stuff. So I'm really excited about this episode. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good action in this one. A little bit of that Star Wars humor that we've come to love over the years. And again, check out the episode. If you haven't watched it in a while, check this one out. In other news, we are 1 week away from the return of Andor Season 2 kicking off on the Disney Plus. We get that rad new formatting with 3 episodes, basically like little mini Star Wars movies every week for the next 4 weeks. It's starting next week. And it's going to be spectacular. We are going to do our best to cover it as quickly as possible, as comprehensively as possible. But obviously with 3 episodes coming out, it's going to be a lot. So we'll do our best. The plan is to hopefully have episodes out on Wednesday at some point early in the day, California time. If you're on the East Coast and you're listening to the show, thank you for your support. You'll get them a little bit later because I'll have to process a lot of information. If we can, if I'm so fired up, we will record right after I finish watching the episodes. We'll see how that goes, though. Sometimes Tom's a little tie-tie and needs to go get his sleepy sleeps. But we'll talk. We will be here for Andor the very next day at the latest. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get into it. I'm very excited to get into this episode. Let's give those particulars right now. This is Star Wars Rebels Season 2, Episode 12, A Princess on Lothal. Original air date, January 20th, 2016. The episode is written by Stephen Melching, directed by Bosco and G. Our primary cast for this week, of course, Ezra Bridger. Oh my God. Taylor Gray as Ezra Bridger. Vanessa Marshall as Harrison Dula. Freddie Prinze Jr. as Kanan Jarrus. Tira Sakar as Sabine Wren. Steve Blum is Zeb Orielos. Dave Filoni as Chopper. Liam O'Brien as Lieutenant List. You got Julie Dolan as Princess Leia Organa. Matthew Wood as the Rebel pilot. And Clancy Brown as Ryder Azadi. The plot for this week, well, I kind of gave it away. Bail Organa sends his daughter to Lothal to help the rebellion acquire ships for their fleet. but an Imperial lockdown forces them to come up with a new plan. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into it. You know what that means. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go. So the episode starts by picking up some of the pieces from last week's episode. After receiving the devastating news about his parents, Ezra is still sort of processing his grief and dealing with the knowledge that his parents aren't out there any longer with him, for him. And so we find Hera via holocom transmitting to Governor Azadi and Kanan, who are still camped out in the mountain areas of Lothal. And she brings information. Well, first of all, she thanks Azadi for being there with Ezra's parents. We got to remember the family dynamic of this group of rebels here. And as Kanan and Hera are sort of the pseudo parents of Ezra in many, many regards, as far as this dynamic works out, of course she's going to want to thank the governor for being there with his true parents in their final moments and being able to give him, whether it was the news he wants, being able to provide him with closure in regards to where his parents are and what their fate might be. But she also delivers news that after their setback on Garel, when the Empire came down and destroyed many of their ships, Senator Bail Organa is going to step up and help replenish Phoenix Squadron here. He's going to give him 3 ships, and he's dispatched his agent to bring them to Lothal as we speak. So now we cut to space above Lothal. 3 Hammerhead Corvettes emerging from hyperspace, where the Empire waits to find out what's going on. And I sort of love the Empire's thoughts on Alderaan when it's confirmed that a delegation from Alderaan is bringing these Hammerhead Corvettes to deliver disaster relief, not necessarily disaster relief, but to provide relief to the citizens of Lothal who are suffering from the insurgents. And the Lieutenant List's reaction, calling them, referring to them, I should say, as another meddling delegation from Alderaan, made me chuckle quite a bit. So, good stuff. All right, so the ships eventually get cleared to land in Jalal City. Ezra and Kanan are on the move there, once again disguised as a stormtrooper and his cadet. But Ezra is not really stoked on this mission. He's not fired up. He's still, like I said, still in the grieving process, and not really excited to be back in the fight just yet. Azadi comes out and says he's not getting involved. He fears going back to prison, so he's going to stay here in the mountains and hide out, and kind of I don't know, just be a hermit for the rest of his days, I suppose. He doesn't seem to have any sense of wanting to be back involved. So, again, they just leave disguised as stormtroopers on Azadi's speeder bike, and they quickly arrive as the Hammerhead Corvettes land in Jalal City. Leia takes charge very, very quickly, to Ezra's dismay, and getting to hear another voice as Princess Leia is something that I'm fairly used to from various video games over the years, audio dramas, audio novels that have interpreted the character and gone in different directions with her. But they all sort of have a lot of the same mannerisms as far as the voice goes, the rhythm, the patterns in which Carrie Fisher would speak as Leia. And I think Julie Dolan does a really nice job sort of doing a solid impression of Carrie Fisher, but while also making it something new and different too, because this is a younger version of Princess Leia than we really have ever seen before. So she gets to sort of put like a little bit of I don't know. I don't want to say like a childlikeness to the voice, but again, just sort of a younger, but still very serious, still very important tone of voice that Leia has. She carries herself very, very maturely, and I think that's something that's also fun to think about, fun to consider as we look at this episode, because Ezra and Leia, roughly the same age, basically born at the fall of the Republic in the beginning of the Imperial era. But have been on very different paths, have lived very different lives. There's no doubt that Leia is the more mature of the two people, despite their ages. But there's a fun conversation later in the episode between the two where they sort of begin to understand each other. But the paths they've taken, the directions they've gone in, and the things they've experienced have definitely shaped and molded them into who they are. But it is fun to see sort of this person the same age as Ezra, who is so much more mature, so much more serious than Ezra. A little bit of the character that Ezra maybe wants to be, if he can get kind of past some of his more teenager-like tendencies. So the Empire arrives, the real Imperials, not just Ezra and Kanan in their disguises. They arrive there to detain the ships, inspect them, go on board with scanning, and scan for contraband. These three these three Hammerhead Corvettes, I'd like to mention, as you may know, inspired by the video game Knights of the Old Republic back in 2003. So any old head fans out there like me who maybe recognize them when they first debuted here in the animated series, yeah, that's right. It's official. Inspired by Knights of the Old Republic. The Hammerheads also got their live-action debut in Rogue One, as they were a part of the attack on Scarif and did some serious damage to some Star Destroyers, which was a lot of fun when you watch that battle sequence high above Scarif. Excuse me for choking up there a little bit. All right. So the Empire's there. They're going to scan for the contraband. Lieutenant List arrives on the scene, and he's noted that wherever Leia goes with her Alderaan ships, they tend to get stolen quite a bit. There's this terrible trend that her ships get stolen by rebels whenever she's around. So Lieutenant List goes to great lengths to make sure that those ships can't get stolen again. And guess what? She's already told Kanan and Ezra that them stealing the ships was the plan. So when List arrives with gravity locks and a regiment of stormtroopers, and then 2 Imperial AT-ATs, or AT-ATs if you prefer, she is a bit crestfallen to find out it will not be so simple to have the rebels steal her ships. But Leia pivots strongly, as she always does. She takes List's shuttle, grabs the relief supplies, Kanan and Ezra, as her sort of lackeys to come on board, and they take off from Jalal City, leaving List there with his kind of hands in his pockets, not quite sure what to do. And I love that about Leia. Love the way she carries herself, always with that air of authority. Even when she's caught off balance by something, she pivots quickly and picks up and goes about and does what she needs to do. Kind of getting them back off balance with this young person, bossing around an Imperial lieutenant. It's quite the scene, and it contrasts nicely to her role in A New Hope, where the first person who really doesn't fall for that sort of strong-willed personality is Vader and Tarkin. They have no time for her games, but she's easily able to manipulate these younger, lower-level Imperials, which I think is a delight to see. So they fly away on List's shuttle, and again, Leia is crestfallen by all this. And Ezra at one point is like, well, why didn't you just give us these ships in orbit? Why'd you have to come down here and make this a whole thing? And again, like I talked about earlier in the episode, I love that Leia sort of lays it out. Like, this is why these things have to be done. And this is what protects Alderaan from being exposed as supporters of open rebellion. This is what prevents Alderaan from being labeled as traitors, as being her and her father being arrested for treason and probably executed very, very quickly. So I like that we lay that all out there, that we get these things kind of up on Front Street. And again, as I've done recently with a lot of this series, it's fun to examine this show in light of what we have been seeing in roughly the same time period with Andor. Granted, it's the gravity of what happens on Andor it's way more adult, it's way more serious, it's way more intense, and has more elements of just sheer reality to it. But again, it's all Star Wars, and in your head canon, this stuff all works together, and it's really nice to see that, and the lengths to which some of the politicians who are supportive of rebellion, of taking down the Empire, the lengths they have to go to protect themselves. And again, on Andor, we get a taste of that through Mon Mothma's role. Mon Mothma, who will be playing a large part in this series in future episodes. I believe more so in season 3. But again, Mon Mothma and her role and everything coming soon to our Rebels Rewatch series. So again, it's just fun to kind of put these shows together, see the puzzle pieces kind of aligning, and again, it sort of shows us again to compare to Andor, Lothal Ryle, a character who is shrouded in mystery and goes to great lengths to disrupt and sow dissent and destruction amongst the Empire. He's the contrast to a character like Organa and Bail and Leia, who have to be so hidden. Public but hidden. Lothal Ryle gets to move in the shadows. They can't do that. So again, it's a fun compare and contrast to juxtapose those against each other. All right, enough about that. Let's get back into the episode. All right, so as they are flying, they go back to the mountainous areas where Ryder Azadi is hiding out, and they find that the Empire has located him. So they land and Leia demands to know what's going on. And the stormtroopers inform her that he is a wanted fugitive of the Empire, and he is to be executed for escaping from an Imperial prison. And she tries to, do her Leia thing, but to no avail. So Hera arrives on the scene, causes mass destruction, mass chaos, and they stage a rescue of Ryder. They don't know at that moment that Ezra and Kanan are there on the scene, but they're able to get a signal to Sabine to let her know. And a quick plan is concocted for our Spectres to take Leia hostage and take the Stormtrooper and his cadet as prisoners, which again throws off the Stormtroopers quite a bit in a really rather funny moment as they observe the two being knocked unconscious by Zeb and then dragged aboard the Ghost. And they're like, wait, they do that now? Good stuff. Made me laugh. Good humor there. But they make their escape, and they report back to List that the princess has been abducted. And List is freaking out because she's under their protection, so he's not liking this one bit. And you can tell he is completely off balance with this news. When we first meet this character, Lieutenant List, in this episode, he seems very calm and cool and collected and composed. Those things are all out the window at this point, as he is now being completely thrown off balance by everything that's occurring on Lothal. Now we cut aboard to the Ghost, and we get a nice moment here. The first moment where Ezra's back with the rest of his surrogate family, and they're sharing their condolences, and they're passing on their support for their friend after getting the news about his parents and their deaths. So Leia observes this and kind of keeps to herself for a moment until Kanan comes over and says that, maybe Ezra could use a friend right now, someone of his own age who can share some wisdom with him. And so, again, we don't play a lot of clips on the show any longer, but I did want to share this one with you guys for the episode. So let's go ahead and check it out, this moment between Leia and Ezra.
I know who you are. You're Ezra Bridger. I heard your transmission.
Yeah, my parents heard it too, but they're gone now.
I'm sorry.
It's just, there's so much against us. Do you ever wonder
If this fight is even worth it? Every day. But I'm still here.
But you're a princess. You don't have to risk your life doing this.
I feel like because I can fight, I have to, for those who cannot. And I think you might be the same way.
Boom. There you go. And listen to the music. A lot of big time familiar Star Wars themes, musically speaking, in this episode, particularly as we spring into the action of the third act, which, again, we'll talk about that very, very shortly. But Leia's conversation here with Ezra spurs him and drives him and motivates him and gets him to the point where he realizes, yes, he's grieving. Yes, he's lost his parents, and these things are sad and terrible. But they fought for a reason, and he's fighting for a reason too. And he has to remember that. And he has to move on and do things that he has to do so that others will not lose their parents or lose their children. And again, it's all about keeping the hope alive in a galaxy full of darkness and fear and tyranny. And it's what drives the heart of the show. So now, with Ezra re-engaged into the mission, it's time to come up with a plan to liberate these 3 ships to help the fleet, to aid Phoenix Squadron here. And it's not looking good. Sabine's having a hard time figuring out a plan here where they don't all die very, very quickly into this. Like maybe they get one of the 3 ships, which, by the way, it came out later on in one of the Star Wars expansion books. But these 3 Hammerhead Corvettes, they have names: Amity's Arrow, Lightmaker, and Duchess Senna. Kind of fun. And, well, we'll talk about the rest of the end later. Let's get back to the plan. It's the best Sabine can come up with is maybe trying to detonate using all the explosives that she likes to carry around with her as a way to get rid of the gravity locks. But Azadi pipes up at this point and is like, "You can't do that. It's not going to work on those. Only I know how to disable these things." And he's like, "Why is that?" Because he built them while he was on his prison planet. That's what he was up to, building gravity locks to impound all kinds of ships and enemies of the Empire and those sort of things. So yeah, maybe not building those Death Star components like we thought, maybe. I couldn't remember. But now we know. And so he has the insight that they need to be able to disable these things. So Azadi's going to join the fight. But he's doing it for a reason, for a purpose. And it's because he now believes he can't go back to Lothal. Nothing there changed in his absence. He knows it's not safe there for him. So in exchange for a relocation to another planet, he will aid the rebels this one time by disabling those gravity locks. But they need a distraction. And of course, that will come in pretty handy here. So we see they got to get their plan figured out a little bit in the interim. The Ghost is going to be air support. We're going to have Kanan and Ezra on the ground with Leia as well to provide the distraction. And let's go about things, right? So that's what they do. You have Azadi, you have Chopper sneaking around trying to disable those gravity locks. Princess Leia arrives to provide the distraction, talking to List. Let her know that Kanan in disguise is a stormtrooper, is the reason why she was able to escape and return in the rebel ship that they were looking for. And this is when you cue the music. Again, more of the familiar Star Wars music that we know so well from the original trilogy. Sabine opens fire on a ship, doing her thing. You got Hera versus the AT-ATs, or the AT-ATs. Kanan and Ezra, they spring into action. It's the action in the episode. This third act is top-notch, top-tier stuff. I love Hera zooming in the Ghost, firing on the AT-ATs. But the best is yet to come, because once Ezra and Kanan spring into action, we get what I think is one of the coolest visuals thus far of the show, and that is Kanan charging an AT-AT with his lightsaber engaged while wearing his full Stormtrooper regalia. Very evocative of the Ralph McQuarrie concept art that he did so many years ago to help George Lucas bring his world, his galaxy to life. You can find that Ralph McQuarrie image of a Stormtrooper holding a lightsaber. And the reaction of the AT-AT drivers as they see a Stormtrooper with a lightsaber charging at them. And they say, "I don't think he's on our side." It's great. So you get Kanan versus an AT-AT, and it's awesome. It's so great. You got Hera and Zeb in the Ghost flying cover. Sabine takes off in the first ship, opening fire on people. It is spectacular. They are making their way. They're getting all the Hammerhead Corvettes. And Azadi has to step up to be the pilot of the third one, right? He's powering through the gravity lock while Chopper's trying to get it disabled in time so they can all take off together. It's fantastic. There's more Imperials arriving. It's great. And Azadi using the engines of the third Hammerhead to throw and crash down the second AT-AT that's remaining after Hera and Zeb have shot down the first one. It's spectacular, an incredible escape. But again, we have to protect Leia's cover, right? She's been on the ground here with Lisk, and Lieutenant Lisk, all these stormtroopers turned on Leia, and she has to act as just as surprised as he is at all this. And that's when Ezra, again, they have a quiet little goodbye real quick, where Leia says that he has her permission. And Ezra knows what that means very quickly, and it's time to stun blast Leia so that she has the plausible deniability that she needs. That, yes, indeed, more rebels stole my ships, and it's just a thing that happens to me. I must have the worst luck in the entire galaxy. But Lisk sees it. He comes to just as her stunned body hits the ground. And again, Leia keeps his character off balance by immediately reprimanding him and going after him for the loss of her ships, and that there must be compensation made, or she's going to report to the Senate. Well, actually, her initial threat is to report it to the Senate immediately and to the Imperial chain of command. And he's like, no, whoa, let's take care of this. We'll reimburse you for the stolen ships. We got this. Let's not make a thing of this in the Senate. So again, she's keeping this character off balance so well, which again, it's fun to see her do this in this regard, because again, until she runs into Tarkin and Vader, Leia is able to assert her will on just about everybody she meets at this point. She's able to throw them off and then get her way with every Imperial she's encountered thus far. So the rebels make their escape. They have 3 Hammerhead Corvettes now. Leia's cover is protected. She is still, safe from suspicion. Well, maybe not completely safe from suspicion, but in this regard, they can't link her to anything. This Imperial lieutenant has seen the ships be stolen. So we go back to our fleet, and this is when Ryder Azadi makes the announcement that he will not be relocating to another planet. He will go back to Lothal. He will rejoin the fight, and all is good for the growing Rebel Alliance in its infancy still. But Phoenix Squadron grows, gets stronger. They now have a former governor of Lothal on their side, and Ryder Azadi is no joke. And again, I just love that Clancy Brown's bringing his voice to life. And then again, we get to see that voice come to life in the form of Clancy Brown on the Ahsoka series in Season 1. Just delightful. A really great episode. I dig this one a lot. I think it's fun. I think it's got great action to it. It's got a strong emotional core to it, with Ezra processing his grief and trying to figure out if this fight's even worth continuing at this point with his parents lost. And you have Kanan charging an AT-AT with a lightsaber in the Stormtrooper Regalia. It's fantastic. I love this episode. It's 9 buckets. Come at me. Tell me it's not. It's a great episode. It's so good. Check this one out. Don't let it slip from your radar, okay? All right, my friends, that is the episode. Remember, starting next week, we got Andor on our radar. We're locked in. We're focused. We're here for season 2 of Andor. If time permits, we will get some more episodes of Rebels Rewatch done along the way. We just have to see how that goes. Again, Andor may take the primary focus for the show, but Star Wars Rebels Rewatch will not go away. Do not worry about that. All right, my friends, I think that's about it for us. There's some other Star Wars stuff going on. Oh, I was going to mention, too, with Andor being around the corner, there are a lot of really great recaps of Season 1 that you could watch if you need to refresh your memory or anything. On Disney Plus, they have provided, I think it's a 15-minute or so kind of recap of the key moments of Season 1 of Andor. If you'd like to watch that, get everything kind of refreshed in your brain so that you can go into Season 2 locked and ready. Because we've kind of reached the point where you probably don't have time to rewatch all of Andor right now. Though maybe you do. And if you do, Godspeed, Spider-Man. That's amazing. I don't know how you have that kind of free time in your life, but good for you. All right, Bucketheads. Let's get out of here. Remember to support us on the socials. We truly, truly appreciate it. It's at Mando_Vision, Twitter/X, and Instagram. It's MandoVision at Blue Sky. And you can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. A great way to support the podcast, if you're on Apple Podcasts, sweet 5-star reviews. They help the small independent shows like us stand out, not get lost in the shuffle. And I thank you in advance for that. All right, go out there into the world and get these people ready for season 2 of Andor. Get them watching Star Wars Rebels. Don't let them tell you it's a cartoon. It doesn't count. You know it counts. But get them fired up, get them hyped up, and go out there and engage with Star Wars fans, whether it's on the internet or in real life. But remember, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, even if you don't agree. We still respect each other here. That's the kind of Star Wars fans that listen to this podcast. And I thank you guys for being so amazing. Buckethead Nation continues to be the best bunch of supporters in the entire freaking galaxy. Thank you all so much. We'll be back next week. Andor, lock it in. All right, let's bounce. We'll see you next week. Remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Just did the castle run in 12 parsecs. Not if you round down, buddy. Yeah.